going on, everyone? Happy Monday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back in. I hope you guys all had an amazing weekend, but I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a breakdown and let you guys know exactly how my day trading went, so let's jump right into it. And as you guys can see from the screen, right, unfortunately, in terms of day trading wise, right, I did have a red day. As you guys can see, I only traded two things, and that was SQs and TQs, right? I lost $188.94 on TQs, and I made $74 on SQs, right? So overall, I finished down about $115 on the day. So, I was using $30,000. So although it wasn't, too big of a loss percentage wise, I still feel like I didn't do a very good job, right? Or an effective job trading. As you guys can see, I had 700 filled orders pretty much. That is absolutely insane, right? And I only traded for 3 hours, right? So the amount of orders for how much I traded is just disgusting, right? I was absolutely over trading today. As you guys can see, I started trading at 6:30 right at market open, right? And I didn't stop trading until 9:42. So just a bit over 3 hours, right? All for a loss. But let me go ahead and break down exactly what I did, bad today and how I can really just improve heading into the rest of the week. So what was a big mistake that I made today in terms of what I think my biggest mistake was right around this area here. So the NASDAQ, right, pre-market, it found a support at the bottom VWAP, right, validated this double bottom here and pushed back up. And so what ended up happening at market open, this thing started to sell off, and I got into SQs, was able to make some money there. But what actually ended up happening, so I ended up trying, to try to predict where the bottom of the market was going to be, right, where it was going to end up bouncing, and it really ended up burning me. So although I made money on the way down here, right, by getting into SQs, ultimately around these areas, I would try getting into TQs only to get burned once this thing pulled on back, right? And the biggest mistake I made was right around here. So once this thing was pushing down, it finally ended up bouncing, right, validating a support, the pre-market support, right, and then ended up pushing back up and formed a higher low, right? So it went higher than it did last time, right? Right around this area was where I made my big mistake. I thought this thing was going to potentially fall, all the way to, closer to this support level. But what actually ended up happening, this thing fell. I got into SQs, right? I sized up as it continued to fall, in hopes that this thing would sell off to at least around this area, right? Because during the pre-market session, right, it would take a few times to actually bounce for it to finally end up recovering, right? So that's what I ended up seeing. I thought this thing was going to get rejected and fall lower before we were going to continue to push up. And that's where my big mistake was, right? This thing was now validating this area as a support. And once it pulled on back and started to validate the blue line or EMA as a support, right, rather than the resistance, that's when I should have, really stopped trying to predict exactly where the bottom was going to be, right? I knew there was going to be a potential nice push up, right? A nice TQs push up because of the previous potential support we had, right, in the pre-market session, right? So doesn't mean it had to happen, but I really felt like there was going to be a nice push up and we were going to pull on back and continue to push, right? And I was waiting for that push, but I just got so blindsided around this area. Once it broke below the EMA, I thought we were going to, try to push a bit lower before we continue to surge, right? And that's my big mistake, right? I tried predicting where the bottom was rather than, once I saw this thing start to actually change direction and, start to play out the way I thought it could, that could have been my cue to get into TQs and I could have ridden this up and made money, right? Rather than continuously get burned. So I started to try predicting where SQs was going to finally fall, right? I thought this thing was going to end up pulling on back before we saw it bounce again, right? Almost similar to what it did pre-market. And that did end up happening, but not until later on in the day, right? This thing ended up peaking back out to previous resistance levels, got rejected, right? Makes sense why it got rejected around here. Well, it did it 2 times before. It doesn't mean it has to, right? But there's a good chance that it could, right? So I could have made money on the way up here, right? If I wasn't too focused on trying to predict the bottom, right? Could have made money on the way up here and then on the way back down here. So I really, really messed up, right, in terms of trading today, right? I really overcomplicated it when, looking back at it in hindsight, it obviously wasn't, the hardest day to trade. I think we can all agree that there was a general support area, right? And a general resistance area up here. And so it just made sense why, we could potentially see this thing trade sideways, and it just makes sense where it would be smarter to maybe buy TQs, or where it would be smarter to maybe buy SQs, right? And so it sucks that I actually wasn't able to capitalize today, but I at least, right, was able to just manage my risk, right? So that's what I'm, going to be looking out for heading into the rest of the week. If I do end red tomorrow, hopefully I'm able to manage that risk, right? And so I'm just going to go ahead and, for tomorrow, make sure I'm implementing better practices. And yeah, we'll end up seeing what happens, right? We'll follow up with the market and see exactly which way it's headed. On the bigger time frame, there's no question that the Nasdaq is a bit more on the overbought side, right? We have been rejected around these areas, and we are testing them again, right? So we just need to see where, what I'm going to be looking out for is pre-market, where are we at, right? Is the market, more towards the resistance area and we can see it potentially push down on the day? Or is it going to, be a little bit choppy like it was today? I just need to follow up and see how it's trading pre-market, where it's at, right? And where it could potentially go. But I'm going to be following up with you guys tomorrow, right? Posting my recap, letting you guys know exactly how it went. But thank you guys so much for your time. I hope that made sense to you guys and was informative in any way. But if you guys have any questions at all, go ahead and drop a comment and I will be more than happy to answer it. But if you want me to break down any stock or stock indicator, go ahead and drop a comment for that as well. I am more than happy to do that for you guys. But thank you guys so much for your time. That's pretty much everything. I will be posting my recap tomorrow and I will see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your day.